There is a version of you that knows exactly what to do. You know when you should wake up. You know what you should eat. You know what work you need to finish. You know what habits you need to build. You know what distractions you need to remove. The problem is not that you don't know. The problem is that knowing and doing are two completely different things. Because anyone can be disciplined when they are motivated. Anyone can work hard when they're inspired. Anyone can wake up early when they feel like changing their life. But what happens when the excitement disappears? What happens when you're tired, when you're bored, when nobody is watching, when the results are taking much longer than you expected, when you have 100 reasons to stop and only one reason to continue? That is where discipline begins. Because the highest level of discipline is not forcing yourself to do things you hate every second of every day. It is reaching a point where your emotions no longer decide whether you honor your commitments. You don't need to feel motivated. You don't need to feel inspired. You don't need someone to encourage you. You simply know, this is what I said I would do. And then you do it consistently, even when you don't feel like it. Because eventually, discipline stops becoming something you practice and becomes part of who you are. If you resonated with this video thus far, I would like for you to like it and share it with someone who needs to listen to this with you. The first thing you need to understand about discipline is that it has nothing to do with how you feel. Most people have been taught to think of discipline as a personality trait. Some people are disciplined, others aren't, but that's not really how it works. Discipline is a relationship between what you say you want and what you actually do. And every day, you are strengthening one side or the other. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you become a little more disciplined. Every time you repeatedly break one, you teach yourself that your own words cannot be trusted. So the highest level of discipline begins with something simple. You have to become someone who believes their own word. Number one, stop negotiating with yourself. You said you would do it, so do it. Not after you feel motivated. Not when the conditions are perfect. Not when you suddenly become inspired. You decided. That decision should be enough. Because every time you begin negotiating with yourself, you create an opportunity to quit. Maybe I'll do it later. Maybe I should rest today. Maybe tomorrow will be better. And sometimes those thoughts are reasonable. But sometimes they are simply your brain looking for the easiest option. The disciplined person learns to recognize the difference. They understand that they don't need to debate every decision they've already made. If you've decided to train, train. If you've decided to study, study. If you've decided to finish the project, finish it. You don't need to have a meeting with yourself every time you don't feel like doing the thing. Because the more you negotiate, the more you weaken your own authority. Number two, make fewer promises, but keep all of them. You don't need to completely reinvent your life overnight. You don't need to wake up at 5 a.m., work for 12 hours, exercise, read 3 books, eat perfectly, and become a completely different person by next Tuesday. That's not achievable. That is not discipline. That's often just excitement disguised as a plan. The problem with making too many promises is that eventually you break some of them or all of them. And every broken promise teaches you something. It teaches you that your intentions are negotiable. Instead, start smaller. Choose the things that genuinely matter. Make a commitment you can actually keep, then keep it. If you say, I will work for 30 minutes every morning, then work for 30 minutes every morning. If you say, I will start by training 2 times this week, then train 2 times this week. Don't promise yourself a perfect life. Promise yourself one thing and prove that you can trust yourself to do it. Because discipline is built through evidence. Every time you follow through, you give yourself another piece of evidence that you are the kind of person who does what they say they will do. Number 3, master the art of doing things you don't feel like doing. This is where discipline becomes powerful. Anyone can do what they feel like doing, but your life will eventually demand things from you that you don't feel like giving. You won't always feel like working. You won't always feel like exercising. You won't always feel like studying. You won't always feel like being patient. You won't always feel like making a difficult choice. And if your actions are controlled by your emotions, your life will constantly change direction. When you feel good, you move forward. When you feel bad, you stop. When you're inspired, you work. When you're discouraged, you disappear. That is not freedom. That is slavery. That is being controlled by your mood. Discipline means you can feel unmotivated and still move. You can feel afraid and still act. You can feel tired and still do what genuinely needs to be done. Not everything, not constantly, but the important things. Because discipline doesn't mean ignoring your body or pretending you never need rest. It means you stop allowing every temporary feeling to make permanent decisions about your life. Your feelings are real, but they don't always need to be in charge. The highest level of discipline does not come from constantly fighting yourself. It comes from designing your life so that the right choice becomes the natural choice. Because if you have to use maximum willpower every single day just to do what matters, eventually you will burn out. And when you burn out, your old patterns will be waiting for you. So discipline is not just about having more strength. It's about needing less strength to do the right thing. Number 4, remove the decisions that drain you. Every decision costs something. What should I eat? When should I work? Should I exercise today? Should I check my phone? Should I start now or later? The more decisions you make throughout the day, the more opportunities you create to talk yourself out of doing what matters. And most importantly, the more exhausted you get. So disciplined people often remove unnecessary decisions. They create routines. They decide in advance. They know when they work. They know when they train. They know what they are supposed to do when they wake up. The decision has already been made. This is powerful because the moment something becomes a routine, you no longer need to repeatedly convince yourself to do it. You simply follow the system. The goal is to turn important actions into something that require much less thought. Because the fewer decisions you have to make in the moment, the more energy you have for the things that actually require your mind. Number 5, make discipline easier by controlling your environment. Your environment is constantly training you, whether you realize it or not. If your phone is beside you, you are being invited to check it. If distractions are everywhere, you are being invited to follow them. If everything you need to get started is already prepared, starting becomes easier. So stop expecting yourself to win against an environment designed to distract you. Change the environment. Put the phone out of reach. Remove unnecessary notifications. Keep your workspace ready. Prepare what you need the night before. Make the good habits visible. Make the bad habits inconvenient. You don't need to prove how strong your willpower is. You need to stop making your life harder than it needs to be. The strongest person isn't always the one who can resist the most temptation. Sometimes it's the person who simply doesn't put the temptation in front of themselves in the first place. Number 6, train yourself to start before you feel ready. The hardest part of discipline is often the beginning, not the work itself. The beginning. The moment you have to get out of bed, open the laptop, put on your shoes, pick up the book, start the first 5 minutes, start this recording. Your mind will often try to make the task feel bigger than it really is. So don't ask yourself, can I do this for 3 hours? Ask, can I start for 5 minutes? You don't need to finish the entire mountain in your mind before you take the first step. Just begin. Just begin. Because action often creates the motivation you are waiting for. You start working and suddenly you don't feel as resistant. You start exercising and suddenly you want to continue. You start studying and suddenly your brain is engaged. The hardest part was often getting started. So train yourself to become a person who starts quickly. Start quickly. Not perfectly or dramatically, just quickly. Number 7, build your discipline around your identity. There is a difference between saying I am trying to become disciplined and saying I am a disciplined person. The first one describes a temporary effort. The second describes an identity. And identity changes behavior, not the other way around. Behavior doesn't change identity. Identity changes behavior. Imagine you have two choices. One choice is easy. The other is aligned with the person you believe that you are. Which one do you choose? The answer becomes easier when you stop asking, what do I feel like doing? And start asking, what would a disciplined person do here? Not because you need to pretend to be someone that you're not, but because every decision is shaping your identity. You don't become disciplined and then start acting like a disciplined person. You start acting like a disciplined person and eventually become one. At some point, discipline stops feeling like a battle. You no longer wake up every morning trying to convince yourself to do what matters. You simply do it. Not because you always want to, but because you've trained yourself to value your commitment more than your temporary feelings. And this is where discipline reaches its highest level. You don't need to constantly force yourself. You have become someone who naturally returns to what matters. Number 8, learn to delay gratification. The disciplined person understands a simple truth. You cannot have everything right now. You have to choose between what feels good today and what feels good to become tomorrow. Every goal requires some form of delayed gratification. The body you want requires you to train before you see the results. The skill you want requires you to practice before you become good. The financial freedom you want requires you to make different choices before you see the reward. The life you want requires you to sacrifice some things you could have right now. This does not mean you should never enjoy yourself. It means you stop sacrificing your future for every temporary pleasure. You learn to say, not yet. I can have this later. This isn't worth trading my goal for. That ability to wait is one of the greatest forms of self-control you can develop. Number 9, become comfortable with repetition. This is the gold mine. Most people want discipline until they discover what discipline actually requires: repetition. The same workout, the same practice, the same routine, the same difficult decision again and again and again. The problem is that humans love novelty. We want something exciting, something new, something that makes us feel like we're progressing. But real progress is often invisible. You practice the same skill for weeks and nothing seems to change. You show up every morning and your life looks exactly the same. But underneath the surface, something is happening. You are becoming better, stronger, more capable, more disciplined. The highest level of discipline is being able to repeat the right action long after the excitement has disappeared. You stop needing every day to feel special. You become comfortable with ordinary days that quietly build an extraordinary life. Number 10, master yourself, not everyone else. The final level of discipline is not about controlling the world around you. You cannot control other people. You cannot control whether someone understands you. You cannot control whether life goes according to plan. You cannot control every obstacle that appears, but you can control your response. You can't decide what to do next. You can't decide whether you return to the work, whether you keep your word, whether you allow one bad day to become a bad year, whether you let disappointment destroy your direction. This is where real discipline becomes freedom. You stop trying to control everything and you start controlling the one thing you can actually control: yourself. The highest level of discipline is not waking at 4 a.m. It's not working yourself into exhaustion. It is not punishing yourself for being human. It is not becoming a machine that never rests. The highest level of discipline is much quieter than that. It is waking up and remembering what matters. It is waking up and returning to what matters. It is doing what needs to be done even when your emotions are someplace else. It is knowing when to push and knowing when to rest. It is keeping the promises you make to yourself. It is refusing to let one mistake become an excuse to abandon your entire journey. It is choosing your future over your impulse again and again and again, until eventually you no longer need to ask yourself whether you do it. You already know the answer because discipline has become part of you. And when that happens, you become extremely difficult to stop. Not because you are always motivated, not because you never get tired, not because you never fail, but because you have learned how to return. You fall, you return. You lose focus, you return. You have a terrible day, you return again and again and again. That is the secret. Discipline is not never falling off the path. It is becoming the kind of person who always finds their way back to it. So, make fewer promises. Keep the ones you make. Remove the decisions that drain you. Control your environment. Start before you feel ready. Delay the gratification and accept the repetition. And when life knocks you off course, return. Because the person you want to become is not built in one extraordinary moment. They are built in the ordinary moments when nobody is watching and you choose to do what you said you would do. If you have resonated with this video, I would like for you to like it, share it, and drop a comment. This will help the Human Mirror reach a lot more people who will find resonation with it. This has been the Human Mirror. Look closely, you are never invisible. I'll see you in the next reflection.